Hello and welcome to the latest of the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm delighted today to be joined by Dave Pattinson, owner of Tactical Security Options Ltd, based in Lancaster. Hi Dave, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Looking forward to hearing about yourself and the business as well. So, with that in mind, could you give us a little bit of background, on what the business, on yourself and what the business is?
The security company, I started, well, technically I started it 24 years ago. It was tactical training and security, but it was 90% training. So I taught conflict management, dealing with aggressive people from any background. And then when it came to COVID, they didn't want stand-up trainers. Everybody wanted to do stuff online. So I had made the decision of slowing down the training company and pushing more on the security side. So the security side of the company has been going officially 9 years. Right. And the training side is about 5-10% now. I just use that training for certain people, certain businesses that come to me direct, that have been coming to me for years, and then training my own staff. But predominantly, it's a security company.
Okay. So, and what does that special? Have you got things that you specialize in terms of the security side of things, or?
Well, we basically will look at anything, and if we can do it, we'll do it. Predominantly door supervisors. However, we have security guards, we have meet and greet, we have a wedding and funeral hosts where there'll be a customer service type person, but they'll be there for the protection of the people and clients there. We do close protection, or the old word used to be called bodyguarding. Right. Do a bit of that. We do escorting of people and goods. We do front of house meet and greet, and we do what are classed as mobile patrols, alarm response, and we do street patrols. Street patrols are a bit like a private PCSO, but patrolling the streets in partnership with, or where there's not so many police, where we do the groundwork and then we pass on anything that needs to be dealt with accordingly to local authority or police.
Right. Okay. And so, what was your background? How did you get into the world that you're in, or you've been there a long time? So that, how did that all come about?
Yeah, I've been there quite a while. This is my 40th year in security stroke enforcement, law enforcement of every shape and form. I started actually when I was 16 in a mental health hospital as part of security, and I just stayed with security from there onwards. Right. So I've been every form of security. I've managed quite a lot of different companies at management or assistant director level in local authority and other. And then I thought it's about time I just started it myself, basically, doing my own security, because I like to work a set way. I'm very methodical in my practices.
Okay, so what was the catalyst in terms of making that decision to move into kind of being a business owner and setting up on your
own? Well, I always kept running it as a part-time extra thing for quite a few years, but I was quite senior in a certain local authority for quite a few years, and they were making redundancies. So I thought, I'll take my redundancy package and then put full-time into the training and the security company, and then it just took off extremely quickly.
Brilliant. And is that because you obviously had the contacts and then obviously the experience and the knowledge clearly, which are vital in that?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I knew how all different sectors worked. It's a bit like how I say a spaghetti western: the good, the bad, and the ugly. And because I've been in it that long, I've experienced all of it. So I'm quite happy and confident that I know every edge to security, and if not, we can adapt to that way and the changes through everything. So I thought, well, I'll do it my way, because I know my way is right. I'm not bothered about ruling the world and having every job going. I just like quality rather than quantity. So I thought, right, we'll do it my way, and my way for me works.
Excellent. And what do you think? What is it about your way that you think is unique or gives you that kind of differentiation against other companies in that sector?
I've worked for quite a lot of companies in management and senior management roles, and I've also been one of the troops. So there's been plenty of time where you did a really good job and got no thanks for it. And where every time my staff do a good job, whether it's a little bit or anything, they all get personally recognised by me and the management. So I always believe saying, well done, Bill, Bob, Pete, it goes a long way and you get more out of people. And I never ever ask my staff to do anything that I'm not prepared to do myself and tried and tested. So I believe that I've done everything possible. I've learned by my mistakes. I've seen where it needs improvement. And if sometimes when you work for a person or an organisation, they hold the purse strings, and you can only do so much. And then above your rank, you can't go any further. But I have the end word, so I can let it go as high as I want. So we look at just sheer quality, not quantity. And if I don't think I can do a job respectfully and fully, I'll just turn it down and say, unfortunately, we can't help you there. And otherwise, it'll just go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And obviously, someone with so much experience, how have you seen the industry change over the years in relation to,
it's changed massively. For me to be in the industry this long, I believe you've got to adapt to change. Whether you think it's right or wrong, you have to adapt to change. Otherwise, you become a dinosaur. And if you're a dinosaur, you just never change. Come complacent, things pass you, and you never look at new opportunities. So you've got to look at what the customer wants and how they want it, how people's attitudes and beliefs change, and the system and everything else. So you've got to change. And if you can change, then you can make changes within your company and then cascade that down to the staff and troops so they can pass it on. Because if they mess up, they won't remember Bill or Peter. They'll remember David Tactical, the rubbish. That's all they'll remember. And that's how it is. So I believe you've got to work from the top to the bottom and back up again and mentor people. When I first started, it was a bit like an apprenticeship. You stood with somebody and worked with somebody who'd been doing it 10, 20 years, and they said, this is how you do it, and you followed them. But unfortunately, in today's society, a lot of clients won't pay for, don't have time for putting somebody with somebody as a buddy system or a coach or a mentor. So when you go through the training and induction with people, I know a lot of people just get thrown on jobs and there's your uniform, get on with it. Well, we don't do that. We go thoroughly through everything, because the minute they make a mistake, my phone will be ringing and all the complaints will be coming through. So to save me a headache and embarrassment, if you go through everything from the A to Z with people, then it's going to be an easier life for me, easier life for everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So training and making sure people are fully respect and understand their role and what they need to do. That investment upfront is a critical piece of a well-run business, isn't it? In any industry, the better the training, the more engaged the team, and therefore and the more likelihood that they'll do a great job for you as a business owner. So definitely.
Yeah, and we're coming from a training background. I believe that if you give a person all the tools to go to work with, when they go to work, they'll pick the appropriate tool out from the toolbox to use accordingly, whether it's the verbal skills, assertiveness, being polite, listening, or whatever it may be. But if you don't have the tools in the first place, then you'll do what you think's right, which could go terribly, terribly wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And when, especially after conflict management, I'm sure you get that wrong, and you escalate and not you're not going to be.
Yeah. And there's different people interpret things completely different. You can say one thing, and there's about 5 different meanings to it if there's 5 different people listening to it. So it's very difficult, but because I've done it that long, it's just like another day in the office. Although I couldn't probably sit on a till and deal with things like that, because I think, I'm out of my comfort zone. But here, I'm in my comfort zone because it's very repetitive.
Yeah, sure. Okay. No, yes, interesting. Very interesting. So obviously we've just talked about kind of how the industry's changed. What when you're looking ahead into the future, what do you think the biggest challenges are going to be for you and the business?
Well, I'll always be able to adapt and change, because that's what you have to do, whether you believe it's right or wrong. I found that the biggest, hardest thing for me was when you try and change something, it's very difficult if you don't have the support mechanisms in place. Now, a lot of things in the industry, there's not enough police. That's why there's more security. So sometimes you have to think on your feet. And
Yeah.
because we're governed by awarding bodies now and things like that, they'll put things in place that don't necessarily operationally work with the troops on the ground.
Right.
So everything looks and has to be fluffy, but unfortunately, nobody will give you an answer when all the fluff's blown off and it's all gone wrong. What do you do then? So there has to be change from them steps for it to be able to change down to us, because a lot of people, unfortunately, are very negative against the systems because they teach you the wrong things and they give you the wrong skills and not deal with everything fully. So that's a big stumbling block that needs to change. Well, I don't know how that will.
No.
And since COVID, a lot of people, unfortunately, have become very, very, very intolerant, impatient, and very anti everything. But when you ask them to comply with a very simple thing, could you just stand over there for me, please? Or have you got your ticket? Or have you got some ID? Or whatever it may be, all of a sudden, they become very anti-authority and very aggressive and very impatient. And that's younger people, older people, everybody up, down, and in the middle. Right. So I think the tolerance has changed. Like people in queues are getting impatient and starting becoming hard work with people. So the only people that get the brunt of it are usually the frontline staff, like security or till operators or things like that. So people's attitudes and belief need to change. Right. And also some form of deterrent, which unfortunately, when you say, look, if you don't go, we'll ring the police, majority of people say, go on then. And that's it. Right. If you're lucky enough to get the police. So it's very difficult. The things have to change from that point of view to make things become a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah, okay. So the change in society is kind of making the job that little bit more challenging. So for your you need to adapt and change and make sure that your team are constantly being trained or coached in terms of how the differences they're facing. Would that be fair? Yeah.
Because I always say to all the staff is, if you're dealing with somebody and there's 10 people watching you and there's 20 cameras, you've basically got 30 eyes watching you. And no matter what you do or what you say, somebody somewhere along the line will say, that's wrong, you're to blame. So you've got to be squeaky clean in sometimes very, very dangerous or volatile situations. So I always say it's a very quick learning curve, security. You can either do it or you can't, or you'll end up in trouble, or you'll get through it all. But you've got to be think on your feet instantly.
Yeah, I guess would it be right or fair to say that over the years there's a bit more of a litigious kind of society as well, and people are maybe sometimes looking for reasons to complain and health and safety. Obviously, so in one sense it helps grow your business, because obviously there's more need for what you do in terms of security, keeping people safe, duty of care and stuff. But on the flip, you've got to make sure that you're being professional enough so that the flip of that isn't that people aren't looking to take opportunity to challenge what you're doing as well, I guess, where like you say, people are a bit more aware of what the health and safety, the rights and all that kind of stuff. I guess that might be a challenge for you as well.
Yeah. I've always said that our staff, you've got to be on the ball, because there'll always be somebody to complain about something and nothing, or make something little into something big.
Yeah. No, cool. Yeah, no, interesting. So, so you talked about obviously the team that you work, and you mentioned something that you do and make sure that you look after the team. When you're bringing new people into the business, what qualities do you look for in those potential new employees?
Well, when we put adverts out for various different jobs, we get quite a lot of applicants, and we look at how they've communicated or come over to us. Some say, I want a job, and then that's it. And then others might have a covering letter or things like that. But we'll look at all them different things, and then we'll have a face-to-face, uninformal sit-down chat, talk to them about them, see how they come, how they dress, how they chat to us, things like that, what they're actually looking for, and can we actually offer it or give them it. And then once we're happy with that, we invite them back for a formal interview. ticking all the boxes, going through all the paperwork and various things like that, and start dates and induction process. And then when they eventually start with us, they go through a strict induction process. But what we want now is, a lot of people have an image of security as the biggest, baddest wolf in town. But the security have to be an all-rounder at everything. And the best thing they've got to be good at is talking and listening. If they can listen to somebody and talk to them and resolve things by basic communication, that's what we're looking for. Because if you can't communicate, the next thing you're going to go to is probably aggression, bawling, shouting, and all the rest of it. So we look at if they can communicate on a one-to-one level over a brew in a cafe and things like that. And then we get to know a bit about them. So anybody can send a CV through, and it'll be completely different to how they actually are. So we get to know them first, then we invite them for a formal interview, do the selection process, and we go from there. The security industry, unfortunately, is a very, very transient industry. A lot of people will hop, skip, and jump from company to company to company for 5 pence more or 10 hours longer than what you can currently give them. That's the downside about the industry. You can invest all that time, effort, uniform, training, induction process into a person, and then tomorrow they're gone. That's a very bad thing about the industry. Or they'll go to a lot of different companies, and then you'll get somebody else's, best word to call it, cast off. And then they'll say they've done all this, and on paper they have, but then all of a sudden they're with you a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then they're gone. But then you get certain ones that will be with you for a few years at a time or even longer. So, a couple of my staff have been with me for literally years. But it's all about, we look for the best in everybody, and if we can't get the best in everybody, we try and coach them and mentor them to where they're comfortable and where we're comfortable, get a happy medium. That's how we work.
No, definitely. I think, I mean, as you were talking, and then you actually, mentioned it, that communication piece is vital. It's, because when, again, if you stereotype things and you think of security, bouncers, door people, whatever, big and muscly, and they're there to deal with the rock or whatever. But a lot of it is communication, and it is about kind of, they're the first point of contact in a club or a venue and things like that. If they can set the right tone, it helps obviously probably later down the day or the night or whatever, in terms of dealing with people. And and because at the end of the day, they will always end up in there's always going to be some potential point of conflict, isn't there? Just because of the reasons, and it's trying to minimize those. But when they do happen,
I would say, well, when I first started, a lot of the security I worked with when I first started, they said, not working with him, he's too small. He's only 16, 17, but 40 years later, and I've done it continuously, and I've worked absolutely everywhere. So I always say, never judge a book by the cover, because everybody has something to bring to the table, whether it's the size, their communication skills, their empathy, or whatever else. Because nowadays, 98% of this job is communication and stood about waiting for things to happen. And then that 2% where it goes wrong, you've got to be able to diffuse it very quickly, very safely. And as a last resort, use minimum force to get them out. But that doesn't always work in a lot of scenarios, because it's like flipping a coin.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure. I can imagine it in different. When people are in certain environments under certain conditions, I guess it unfortunately sometimes the communication piece isn't you can't talk to some people, can you? But clearly, so what else do you what else do you encourage? So you talk, you mentioned about the team. You've got some guys that have been with you quite a long time. What how often do you do kind of formal training on a regular basis with people, or is it coaching? How do you kind of improve them?
Well, it's a bit like blended. It's a bit like blended learning. We all know what people are capable of. You get an induction process of what the tools to which job they're going on to, and then if they move, some of my staff, they move to 4 or 5 different types of jobs, so we induct and train them accordingly. Some of our training induction is quite lengthy because we have to give them full tours of the building,
Right.
panels and this and the other. And sometimes that can take an hour and a half just to show somebody a site. So it's quite complex.
Yeah.
And then we have online portal learning where I've got all the risk assessments, RAMs, policies, toolbox talks, all the ways of doing various jobs, and everybody's tagged into them. So if they're only going to do 2 other jobs, then they'll be trained in specifics for that particular one. Then we have on-site audits where me, Stacey, the other director, Alan, the operations manager, we're out all the time checking on staff, seeing how they're working, buddying up system. And then with certain staff that have got a bit more responsibility, like a team lead or supervisor, some description, who train other staff or have other staff under them, we meant to train them differently so they can pass on that knowledge to the people that's under them working. So we have quite a lot of development that way.
Cool. Sounds great. And yeah, as you say, it all goes into ensuring that retention of great people is an absolute bonus. It's an actually critical element of a great successful business, isn't it? Productivity, but also engagement, enjoyment of the team, for sure. And you mentioned earlier, talked about adaptability. Is there any other things? What have you learned over the last 40 years, but maybe over the last 10 years, or since you started the business? What have you learned over that period of time as a business owner?
Well, I've learned that I can run my business exactly how I want it, and I can cherry pick my clients, which is brilliant. But unfortunately, the industry being the industry, it's dog eat dog. So you will get competitors or pop-up companies just coming in and undercutting you left, right, and centre. That's the downside about the industry.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, which we don't live in, everybody could charge the same, pay the same. If I got short, I could ask another company, say, have you got 3 people to help me out this week? And next week I'll give you people. That'd be ideally. But unfortunately, companies just go in and try and run full areas, and they're going very, very cheap. And if anybody is good at maths, it'll work out that it doesn't work out, that you run the company at a loss. So when you're competing against them people, then the clients, the customers expect it that low. So when I'm competing against ones that are going a lot cheaper than me, I just don't do as much business as I'd like to do. So I always say, well, if you want to buy something cheap, you go to a cheap and cheerful shop. If you want to buy something decent that's going to last and do the job, you go to a better class shop. But unfortunately, that's the industry. Everybody's trying to poach people's staff, poach people's clients' business, and they're just going extremely cheap. And that ruins the industry, unfortunately.
Right.
It's not as regulated as it could be.
Oh, right. Okay. I was going to ask, is regulate? Yeah. So what kind of regulations do you need to follow in terms of?
Oh, we're governed by an awarding body, governing body, actually, SIA. And they make sure that we're doing the job and we've all got license to work. But when you go and work for a company, then that company can do whatever they want.
Right.
So that's the bit that's unregulated. So that's the things that you're up against. People who are putting people in your roles and taking your work, probably not fit for purpose, not been vetted, and all the rest of it, which causes massive problems where you just cannot get the work you could probably get in because you're dealing with bigger companies that have got bigger apples.
Yeah, sure. No, sure. Okay. Interesting. So in relation to, your journey over the last few years and looking forward, what inspires you or is it currently inspiring you to achieve what you're achieving at the moment?
Because I always say that people will never remember that person that did a poor job. They'll always remember the company, and the company is my name. So they'll say, David Tactical, rubbish, don't use them. And I can't be doing with that because around about 70 or more percent, probably a little bit more, about 70+% of my customers, clients will repeat customers have been with me from day one, so to speak, and they've never changed. And they could have had opportunities to change, but they haven't changed because I'm in contact with all our clients weekly, either telephone, email, face to face. And if I don't do it, one of the managers will be doing it. So they have constant contact with us. And I believe that if you get too big, you can't do that. And
No.
you don't know the names of your staff, you don't know the points of contact at the client.
Yeah.
But if you've got quality, you can deliver a quality service.
Yeah.
We're not the biggest and we're not the best, but we try our best. And that's what we say to people. We'll always try our best, and we'll do anything to do that. And if we have to adapt to the client's change by reducing certain things or increasing certain things, we will do. We're not in it just for the money or the tick in the box. We're in it for the long haul. And how I look at it, if we look after a client, they might pass my name on to somebody else and say, well, we use these, why don't you use them? And strangely enough, we do get quite a few of our clients saying, use them. And when I get a new client coming, I say, how did you find out about us? Oh, well, Joe Blogs, pass your details, I work there. Oh, right, okay. So for me, that's good because it's word of mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing stronger, is there, and nothing more positive from a recommendation than, you know, a lead that comes from a warm recommendation, a warm referral from someone that's already worked with you. And, you know, because people trust people, right? And yeah, they'll trust their friends or other people in the industry. And if you're being recommended, then, you know, that's a fantastic starting point. And that goes down to you know, obviously your business, your experience, your knowledge, and obviously clearly the way that you operate when you're doing the work for your clients. So yeah, no, fantastic stuff. So yeah, so just finally, just wanted to, you know, give the opportunity to mention, you know, anything about the business you'd like to let people know about. You know, where can they find you online, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. Well, we're on quite a few social platforms. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter. We've got quite a bit on Facebook. We've got a website, which is www.tacticalsecurityoptions.co.uk. We're on that most days. You can also find us through a charity that I have, which is Tactical Street Angels of Lancaster. That's on Facebook, and that refers back to the security company as well. I founded that actually about 15 plus years ago. Basically, me and Stacey, we go out feeding the homeless 5 times a day, 7 days a week. We self-fund it, and then if people give donations of clothing, food, we go out and give that to the homeless as well. So that's part of something that we do as well. So we can be found on the Tactical Street Angels of Lancaster website as well.
Fantastic. That's amazing. No, yeah, fantastic to hear you give back into the community as well. So, you know.
Yeah, I believe that if you give something without any intention coming back, something will come back to you indirectly in a better, nicer way.
Yeah, no, definitely. Fantastic. Well, no, thank you for that, Dave. It's been fascinating to speak to you. And I wish you all the best for the future with everything that you're doing at the moment. All right.
Yeah, thanks very much. You have a good day.
Thank you.